Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to GH Talks Community Social Services, a program formerly known as Family and Community Social Services. My name is Caitlin Billenduke. I'm the Liaison Events Coordinator here in Student Recruitment at the University of Guelph-Humber, and it is my absolute pleasure to be your host over the next hour. We have such an exciting evening ahead, talking all things CSS. We hope you're just excited as we are. Now, before I introduce my other colleagues joining us today, I just wanted to go through a few housekeeping items with you before we begin. So you will notice that we are taking a little bit of a break with our chat feature this evening. So with that said, we are still taking your questions. So if you do have any of those, please submit them at any time in the Q&A chat feature in the toolbar. You will either be addressed privately or we'll cover frequently asked questions towards the end of the event. Now, we may also post additional resources in the chat, so we definitely encourage that you check those out as well. We ask today that you keep questions specific to the Community Social Services Program. All other upcoming program webinar dates and special topics for GH Talks can be found on the GH Talks website. Now, if you ever need to circle back on all the great information you're hearing today, a recording of this webinar will be available on our website at a later date. So without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce our first presenter, my colleague, Joseph Italiano, who will take you through who we are as a university, as well as the program, which includes first-year courses, unique opportunities, and much more. Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you, Katie, and hello to all of our future students this evening. Now, I want to begin today's presentation by giving a big shout out to all of you, as we know that navigating through this pandemic can be challenging for many students as you transitioned to quadmesters or octomesters, to online learning, or perhaps even a hybrid of both online and in person. Now, by joining us here this evening, it likely means that you've already applied to the University of Guelph-Humber, and in this case, likely to the Community Social Services Program. But for those of you who may not have applied this as of yet, the good news is our applications still remain open at this present moment, but I'll urge you that if you're thinking about applying, to make sure that you do so soon, as the applications can close at any time. Now, we'll take a look at the following slide. And I want to let you know that recently, Statistics Canada released survey results that showed that 14% of recent college graduates first began their studies by completing a university degree. Now, they chose to obtain their diploma at a college after attending university because they wanted to gain more specialized hands-on training through their college diploma that is related to their undergraduate degree. Now, the good news for all of you is that by attending the University of Guelph-Humber, you will earn both a degree and a diploma in 4 years of full-time study at our one location. And this is because the University of Guelph-Humber is the collaboration between two renowned institutions. You have the University of Guelph and Humber College Institute of Technology and Advanced Learning. Now, in 4 years of full-time study, you're going to earn that university honors degree and that diploma, which means that we blend both theoretical knowledge, and practical hands-on learning in each of our 7 focus programs. Earning that degree and diploma will ultimately save you more time and money. Now, if you're wondering, how is it possible to earn both a degree and a diploma in 4 years? Well, the answer to that is that at the University of Guelph-Humber, our curriculum is more focused. So what this means is that our programs consist of a majority of core courses with a maximum of 5 electives per program. Now, this means that you would be studying what you're truly passionate about, starting at your very first day with us. Now, at the University of Guelph-Humber, we also offer you more practical experiences, and this is found through your field placements. So each of our 7 focus programs at the University of Guelph-Humber have workplace experience built right into the curriculum. So depending on what program you choose, you may be required to complete anywhere from 100 hours all the way up to 850 hours of in-field experience. And being located in Canada's largest city, Toronto, places you in the center of all opportunities. And the University of Guelph-Humber has done an amazing job building many networks and connections with organizations within our very own community, making it easy for you to secure those placements. Now, our instructors bring more knowledge and experience to the classroom as they are easily able to connect real-life experiences to the theoretical concepts that they'll be teaching you within the classroom. And this is made possible as many of them are still working or have worked for a number of years within the related areas of study. And at the University of Guelph-Humber, we also offer you a more close-knit community, which provides you with more opportunities to create those industry connections. And by attending the University of Guelph-Humber, you will experience a unique opportunity of small campus and classroom size. The average class size at the University of Guelph-Humber is 49 students, with the largest lecture hall being a maximum of 125 students. This brings the overall student population to just under 5,000 students. Now, a close-knit community will ensure that you'll be on a first-name basis with your instructors and peers, providing you with that advantage of gaining those personalized reference letters and one-on-one supports within the classroom. Now, we'll take a look at the next slide. Now, as a community social services graduate, upon 4 years, when you're walking that stage on your graduation day, you'll receive 2 credentials. You'll earn your honors Bachelor's of Applied Science in Community Social Services, and this degree will be designated from the University of Guelph. But you'll also receive a diploma as a social service worker from Humber College. Now, gaining 2 credentials is what makes us at the University of Guelph-Humber unique. But it is also what makes you as a student or graduate stand out to employers. Earning both credentials will tell employers that you not only have the knowledge of the field, but also the hands-on experience to do the job successfully. Now we'll move forward to the next slide. And you'll see that having a close-knit community at the University of Guelph-Humber ensures that you have a meaningful experience as a student with us. When we look at the Community Social Services program, typically there are about 65 first-year students within this program. And this means that the average class size for the Community Social Services program is approximately 15 to 65 students per class. Now, a smaller class size allows you to have a more interactive and engaging lectures where you are guaranteed to get to know your professors and peers on a more personal basis. Now, if you're asking yourself, why is that important? Why is it important to get to know my professor on a more personal level? And well, the reason behind that is at the University of Guelph-Humber, our instructors are leaders in their industry. Getting to know your professors will make it easier for you to gain those personalized reference letters and basically connections in the field. Take, for example, your instructor knows of a company within your area of study that is hiring. Because they may know you on a more personal note, they may think that you're a good fit for that position and then share that position and information with you. One of the great benefits. Now, moving forward, we'll see that students in the Community Social Services program will take courses that will focus on understanding human behavior related to individuals, families, and groups. Now, students within this program are trained to work as general practitioners for all populations. And what sets our program apart from other programs is our heavy emphasis on clinical study. Now, students will learn how to deliver impactful services such as counseling, mediation, and crisis intervention. Now, presented on this slide is a list of first-year courses that you will take that will help build a foundational knowledge for your upper years. I'll give you a quick second to read those over. Now, as we move forward, community social services students will complete more than 850 hours of in-field experience. That's right, 850 hours of workplace experience. Now, over the course of these placement terms, students will gain a wealth of experience with an end goal of providing direct client services. So we'll dissect the placements a little bit further on the next slide. Now, your first placement will take place within the second semester of your second year. So here in this placement, what is going to happen is you're going to gain exposure to within the community or a nonprofit agency. Now, you'll be shadowing once a week in the winter semester of your second year to gain exposure to the industry. And this will ultimately prepare you for your subsequent year's placements. Now, your third placement will take place within both the fall and winter semester of your third year. Now, within this placement, it will take place over the course of 2 days per week, and you'll be working with an agency where you'll begin to interact with agency staff, volunteers, as well as clients. So within this placement, you're going to begin to gain more exposure and hands-on experience within the industry, which ultimately prepares you for your final year placement, which takes place in your fourth year, both again in the fall and winter semesters. Now here, you will gain and attend placement 2 days a week once again, and this time you'll be able to provide those direct client services within the field. So you'll be able to gain plenty of experience within the community social services program. Again, that's over 850 hours, which really makes our program stand out and allows you to build those connections in the field, but also gets the opportunity to explore what population within the community social services that you may be interested in pursuing as a career. Now we'll move forward to the following slide. As mentioned at the beginning of my presentation today, the University of Guelph-Humber, more specifically, our wonderful staff with career and placement services, have built many connections and partnerships with employers within our community. Now, presented on this slide, you will see a short list of some of the employers that we have connections with. And just to make note, this is not an exhaustive list by any means. It's just a list that we decided to present you with to give you an idea of some of our partnerships. Now, in the past, we've had students complete their placements in mental health agencies, probation and parole, and advocacy groups, to name a few. Now, moving forward, as you embark on your post-secondary journey, many of you may find it refreshing to know that we at the University of Guelph-Humber are here to support you. And we have academic advisors who are similar to your guidance counselors, and they're there to support you along your academic journey. Now, we also have the Student Wellness and Accessibility Center, which is available for students who may require accommodations. Now, students will also have access to inclusive services such as the LGBTQ+ Resource Center, the International Center, and the Indigenous Education and Engagement Center. And today we are also joined by Marie, who is one of our many career service coordinators, who will now take you through the next couple of slides to explain to you what services they offer to our students, but also what are you able to do with your degree once you graduate from the University of Guelph-Humber. Marie, without further ado, take it away.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Hello, everyone. My name is Marie Norsu, and I am the Career Services Coordinator for the Community Social Services Program. So as a career coordinator, I am here to help students from first year to alumni on their career path. So that goes from finding job opportunities as well as volunteer opportunities for the school year in the summer, helping them with their placement search, helping them identify what they want to do as a career, as well as identifying and preparing for graduate school application. Next slide, Joseph. Thank you. So as part of the Career and Placement Services Department, we put on a lot of events on and off campus, especially virtually nowadays, to help students to explore different career paths. For example, in the winter semester, in January or February, we have our annual Career Expo. So this is where we have employers from all across the GTA, as well as Ontario, come into our campus or do virtual session where they talk about their recruiting process, as well as opportunities that they have to offer to our students and our graduates. In fall, we also have our annual graduate school and professional school fair, where we have university and colleges come all across Ontario to talk about their program. So in the past, we've had University of Toronto and Western University talk about their Master of Social Work. We've also had Humber College as well as Seneca College talk about their postgraduate certificate, such as the mental health and addiction. We offer a lot of one-on-one support to our students, and we are currently doing one-on-one support virtually through Microsoft Teams. So we are still providing the services to our students, and we are still here for them. We also have resources available online for students who are looking to prepare on their own for their job search. Next, Joseph. So here is a list of careers that our students have done once they've graduated from the program. So this is just a list of career without any further education. So for example, an intake worker is somebody that is welcoming the clients to the organization that they're working with, that is helping them identify the program or services that is best suited for them, and also collect the information. So a student, a graduate from our program, can become an intake worker, whether in the sector in social services, working with people who are looking for employment, or homeless people, as well as people who are in a mental health rehab center. We also have other opportunities aside from frontline, such as a return to work coordinator, where students can work for WSIB or insurance company. We also have a lot of students that have gotten opportunities from their placement as well. We do currently have some alumni that, without further education, have gone on to become vision and cognitive training coaches with the help of their placement organization, as well as wellness coaches and residential counselors in residential home for people with disability or people with addictions. So where can they work? As I mentioned earlier, there is a lot of sectors within the social services field. So within the nonprofit organization, our students in the past have worked in employment centers, crisis centers, homeless shelters, and there are a lot more nonprofit organizations out there that work with different type of groups and populations. We've also had students who work in school boards, such as the Peel School Board, in addiction and rehabilitation centers, as well as group home and mental health settings. So those, again, is just a small list, but the social services field is so vast that there is, I don't think anybody can tell you a full list of all the job titles that are available out there, or all the services that our students can provide. A lot of times, once our students get in the field, they do great because of all the placement hours that they have, but they also move up quickly in becoming supervisors or program coordinators for those organizations. So here in front of you, you have a list of programs that our students have went on to do in the past. We have had alumni pursue Master of Social Work, which is usually a big one for our students. We have students that went on to the University of Windsor, also to York University to pursue their masters. We've had students pursue Teachers College, and that have geared a lot of their placement towards teaching and working with school-age children. So we do have students that apply to the Master of Teaching at UFT as well as York University. And just like the others, those are lists that help our students narrow their focus into a direction in the social services field that they would like. So master's is not the only option. There are also postgraduate certificates, again, such as the mental health and addiction or the autism and behavioral science. That is only 2 to 3 semesters, but again, it helps our students narrow their focus. So if after their 4th year, they decide that they want to work specifically with mental health and addiction, they can do a postgraduate certificate of 2 semesters that requires a degree to get in. And then using their knowledge, they can narrow that focus and get a position such as a mental health support worker, where they're working a little bit more than an intake worker. They're working a little bit more in depth with a client, and they're also sitting in counseling sessions as well. So here in front of you, you have some stats from a recent survey that we conducted by our alumni services. So those statistics help us determine if the services that we're offering our students right now are helping our students get into the field or into the program that they desire after they graduate, but it also helps us provide services to our alumni. So the alumni that graduate from our programs have access to career services for life. So if you decide to go in the field after you graduate and 5 years from now, you want to apply to a graduate school, you're free to come back and we can definitely support you with that. Sorry. And here in front of you, you can see a testimonial from the District Center of Greater Toronto, which is a partner of ours that has taken on our students for volunteer as well as placement. So those testimonials are great as we get feedback from specific students after their placement, but it helps us to see how our students are doing in the field. As you can see from the testimonial, our students are doing great, but it also helps us determine what kind of services or workshop we may want to offer to the students to help them with the career. We find that placement is a great way to help them learn about job search so then they can apply it once they graduate. Here again is another testimonial from CAM's Kid Foundation, who has taken on students for placement, but they also take on students to volunteer and represent their foundation in the school, where students can write articles on mental health, can provide support to communities, and especially to kids right now with everything happening in the world. And thank you very much all for everybody for listening to my bits. I will pass it on to our next speaker.
Thank you so much, Marie, for all of that great career information, and as well, Joseph, for all that lovely information on community social services, what you can do with your degree and diploma. So I really do think it's safe to say that whether you out in the audience have a career path in mind, or you're still navigating your options, which again, very, very normal, it's definitely safe to say placement and experiential learning are now becoming so much more imperative. So that it's really important that you graduate with experience, but most importantly, confidence to help guide your career decisions and success. So as you continue doing your post-secondary research, definitely make that one of your considering factors: placement, experiential learning, when it comes to choosing the most suitable program for you, just so that you know that you have many opportunities that you can pursue after you graduate. Now, I know you finally all might be thinking that the information presented today by our amazing speakers sounds, well, amazing, but we know how important it is to try before you buy. And your research would definitely not be complete without hearing from a current student or two yourself about their experience and what they hope to achieve in their future. So I am very, very pleased to introduce a couple of our 4th year students in the Community Social Services program. I'd like to welcome Vedita Singh and Stefan Thomas. Hello to my Community Social Services students. It's so great to see you again.
Hey, Katie.
Hey, Stefan.
Hey.
Hi, Vedita. All right, so I do have a few questions for the both of you that I'm sure our audience out there is very curious to know about the experiences that they can pursue in the Community Social Services program. Just before we do that, just a reminder to our guests that if you do have any questions or even any feedback for our staff and students today, don't hesitate to continue submitting those in the Q&A. We do love to hear from you. So I'm going to jump right into our questions here. And this first one is for Stefan. So Stefan, in our Community Social Services program, you'll learn how to provide impactful services to a variety of diverse populations. And this is by completing courses such as couple and family dynamics, mental health and addictions, and a wide variety of counseling focused courses. Can you tell us what courses you've enjoyed and why?
Starting off with a hard question. Truthfully, so as you mentioned, there are a lot of courses that we offer, and I guess they touch on every aspect of the field. If I were to narrow them down, which is difficult for me, there are two courses that stick out to me in my 4 years of studying in this program. And I would say the first one is crisis intervention, and the second one is called empowerment-oriented case management. So crisis intervention was a course where, of course, we learned how to help and support individuals who are in crisis. And I think usually when we think of crisis, we automatically think like car crash or death, but crisis can be subjective. And I think one of the greatest things I learned in that course was, for starters, a lot of times coming into just the field of social service work, we want to help people. That's usually why we get into the field. And I think that program taught me that you have to understand what help looks like to the client and if they actually want your help. And what do you do in a situation where they might not want your help? How do you still support them? So I think that course was really interesting. It taught us, how to support clients. It taught us that something that I didn't really understand is that while supporting them, how to kind of be empathetic, but leave your work at work and not bring that home. So there's so many great things. The importance of self-care, something that it can be hard to juggle as a social service worker. So crisis intervention was a great course that I'll never forget. And empowerment, we call it empowerment for sure, but that course kind of has parallels to crisis intervention. And I think I'm actually taking the course right now, and the entire course is kind of teaching us how to work from an empowerment perspective. And it really shows us that sometimes social service workers, we can be doing something that we think is in the best interest of a client, or we can be helping them, as we say, but in reality, we're actually disempowering them. So it really taught us different tools and different approaches we can use to actually empower our clients or create a space, foster a space where they feel empowered.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, the fact that it sounds like, and again, when we think of community social services, we definitely think a lot of helping people, but in a way, you also discover yourself a little bit and using that and leveraging that to help others. And what a great way to develop soft skills in that sense, which again, definitely comes from that theory and hands-on. So, well, thank you very much, Stefan, for answering that. I'm going to move on to Vedita for this next question. So Vedita, can you tell us about any other opportunities that you've had within the program outside of the classroom? So I know that we've had the Change Symposium that you would have been involved with that you can tell us about, any research or other societies.
Yeah, of course. So I'll start with the Change Symposium, and I'll give kind of like a brief description of what that is. It's an annual event or conference that we have within the Community Social Services program with guest speakers, raffle prizes, and the whole event is centered around a specific theme that encourages students to learn, lead, and create change in meaningful ways. So last year on campus, I was actually a Change Symposium volunteer, and I had the opportunity to create a mindfulness corner with brain break activities, breathing exercises, adult coloring books, and it was really cool to see people enjoy that. And then this year, we also had the event virtually, which I think is really cool that we can still continue that, even though like we don't have that in-person experience anymore. I'm also a research assistant for the SOCA Education Research Center on Global Citizenship. So that's a lot of words. I'm probably just going to refer to it as CIRC GC. And if you don't know what SOCA education is, I didn't really know what it was going into the research assistant position, but it's this SOCA education is value creating education. It's a philosophy, a theory, a pedagogy, whatever you want to call it, that focuses on experiential learning, like field trips and, seeing the world and experiencing different cultures and languages. And the teacher is viewed more as a guide rather than the expert. So there's an emphasis on like this mutual relationship between the student and the teacher, and that the teacher can also learn from the student. I'm big on education. I'm very passionate about it. So the whole research assistant position seemed like really interesting to me. And I love learning about the topic. I've had a chance to interview SOCA educators in Canada, and I've also had the chance to conduct research and get to know the program head, Dr. Paul Sherman. So it gives you that opportunity to work with your program head and also gain valuable research skills. And it looks really great on like a master's of social work application, or if you're considering graduate school after the program. Another experience I've had is being co-director general of the Model UN, Model United Nations Club. I'm not sure if you know about this. Some high schools have the club, others don't. But Model United Nations is an extracurricular activity, and it's new this year. And students role play delegates to the United Nations, and we simulate the UN committees. So you're assigned a country to represent, and you have to collaborate with the other countries to come up with solutions to world issues, such as climate change, or women's rights. And you all work together to come up with resolutions. And the tricky part is that you have to stick to your country's policies and their beliefs. So it might be a country that you don't necessarily agree with, but the whole experience is about collaborating. And some of the conferences, our team, again, this was virtual, our first time doing it. And I found that like we were still really able to bond. We had an Instagram group chat and we would talk to each other all the time. So I found that like even people I had never met in person, I still formed some friendships with them, which I think is a really cool experience. But at some of these conferences, we actually had a chance to like represent different countries and meet students from all across the globe. We had students that were competing from Germany and Ukraine and Alberta. One of our conferences was in Alberta, so the time zone was a little bit different. But again, I loved having all of those opportunities, and those are just the opportunities that are within the community social services program.
Wow, talk about master of time management, Vedita, very involved. But as you can see, so many opportunities and ways to, and I think I speak for both of you when I say that the opportunities that you can find in CSS outside of the program, what a great way to connect with not only people within community social services, but to work with your program head and get research done, put that all on your grad school application, and you've met people from around the world and you're able to do that virtually. I mean, what a testament to all the different opportunities that are in the program. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm going to move on to Stefan with this next question. So Stefan, can you share with us any opportunities that have enhanced your university experience? So I'm talking about extracurriculars like work study, athletics, club study abroad, anything of those sorts.
Yeah, for sure. So great question once again. I think a lot of students come into university just focus on their studies. I know that's how I was when I first came to the University of Guelph-Humber. I said, I'm just coming for my marks. Once class is done, I'm heading straight to the bus stop. But I think the moment I started to get involved changed my experience. So Vedita mentioned one of the jobs that I had on campus as the FCSS Symposium coordinator. I won't get into that since she kind of dived into it. But I think two other roles that really enhanced my experience. I'll start with a START leader. So START basically stands for Student Transition and Resource Team Leader. And We're basically the people you see who does campus tours. So I believe you'll witness a campus tour later in this meeting, but usually in person when we're on campus, we'd be the nice people in blue shirts doing campus tours and waving things around and just super excited. I think that experience in itself really, I think that was the experience that really opened up opportunities for me on campus, simply because that job alone gives you the chance to meet other students from different programs. So before having the start leader position, I only knew students in the community social services program because it's pretty small, but getting that position, I was able to meet friends from justice studies, from media and communication studies, from ECS and kinesiology and business, psychology. I got to meet everyone and I was really surprised to see like, wow, like there's other students. Like, of course you see them and you walk past them, but actually being able to develop relationships with them and learn about their program through campus tours and calling campaigns. So I think that job has been amazing, and having the opportunity this year, even virtually, getting the chance to be a senior start leader where I get to help facilitate trainings for the rest of our team and, lead virtual tours. That position has been a great experience at this university. And the second position I'll highlight, I got the chance this year to be a board of director for Ignite. So Ignite is our student union for not just the University of Guelph-Humber, but for Humber College and Humber North, both North and Lakeshore campuses. So I got the chance to run an election, which was kind of scary at first, seeing your face all over the school, but a great experience and getting the chance to get elected by the students at our university and represent them alongside just 33,000 students altogether, getting the chance to sit on a board and make high-level decisions on behalf of all students. So I think that was a great experience. Again, it taught me a lot of skills such as professionalism, and really helped me to use skills such as active listening. But I think the greatest part about the role was that I was able to take things I learned from this very program and apply it to the role. Like, our program teaches us how to advocate for clients. So I think everything I learned, I was able to learn how to advocate for students based on what I was able to learn. So those two experiences really enhanced my overall experience.
Thank you, Stefan. And what a cool way. And although it wasn't necessarily related directly to the program, that you got to use some of those skills. And I think you nailed it when you said at first, you thought that you were just going to head to school, do your time, then go home. But I hear this from so many students working with start leaders myself, a lot of lovely people in blue shirts. It really sets apart just attending class and then actually making memories on campus by actually getting involved and with students such as Stefan and Vedita, who are very involved. I'm sure you have a lot of memories to look forward to beyond your years here. So thanks so much for sharing, Stefan. I'm going to move on to the next question, which is for Vedita. So as a community social services student, you get to complete over 850 hours of placement, which is quite remarkable. So what have some of your best experiences been at placement so far?
So in my second year of the Community Social Services program, I completed my placement with an organization called Kids of Incarcerated Parents, or KIP. So my role was a support worker on the family visitation bus. We would travel to correctional facilities over the weekend, and we would take family members to see their loved ones who were incarcerated. So although the organization usually works specifically with children, on the bus ride, we would have parents, grandparents, boyfriends, girlfriends, a bunch of people like going to visit their loved ones at the correctional facilities. And my job was to provide emotional support, informal counseling, as well as refreshments and entertainment to the riders on the bus, because these bus rides would take about 3 to 4 hours. So they were quite a long drive. So my first experience on the bus was actually one of my favorite experiences, because I encountered a pregnant woman, and it was her first time ever going to a correctional facility. And she was very nervous. It was early in the morning. I believe we boarded the bus at like 6 a.m. And we knew the bus ride was going to be long and she was feeling very nervous, but she was wide awake, like she couldn't fall asleep. So she ended up talking to me. I explained my role, that I was a support worker, and she opened up to me a lot about her fears, her hopes for the visit. And we got to a point where she just felt comfortable and so relaxed that she ended up falling asleep for the rest of the ride. But I found that that was a really rewarding experience because I had a chance to use some of those counseling skills that I had learned in my counseling classes. And just to see that I was able to put that into practice in a real life situation and have a good result come from that, that was really rewarding. And I felt so good about the whole experience after that. And then on my last bus ride, I had a similar experience with a mother. She brought her 2-year-old son. And if you know kids, they're very like antsy. They can't sit in one spot for too long. So some of the other placement students and I actually did like coloring books. We put on a movie because we had one of those TVs in the bus, and we just tried our best to keep the little boy entertained. And unfortunately, once we got to the correctional facility, his mother and her son were actually denied access to their visit. So they traveled all this way just to be told, sorry, we can't let you see your loved one today. And we had to keep them entertained on the bus until the rest of the visitors were done with their visits. And I remember talking to the mother like one-on-one, and she told me about how disappointed she had felt. And she kind of felt the sense of hopelessness where it was like, what's the point of coming back? And I remember talking to her just based off of my time at that placement. I realized how important that family connection is, you know? And even in those experiences where the day doesn't go as planned, it's still important to remember why you're doing this. And you're taking the time out of your day, and it's super admirable that you took all of this time, woke up so early, brought your 2-year-old son, and sat through the entire bus ride. And even though it wasn't what you expected, I told her that I was like, I admired her. And I think it's really important to always remember that the reason we do this is because we're trying to maintain that family connection, because when those loved ones get out one day, they want to know that we're still here for them. So after that, she told me that even though she didn't love the experience of being denied access to her visit, she was definitely going to consider coming on the bus again. So I took that as a sign that it was a really good experience, and I had a good interaction with her and was able to relate to her and connect to her, even though I necessarily wasn't in that position. So those were some of my favorite experiences from placement, and really unique experiences, I think, too.
Exactly. I mean, what a remarkable experience to actually, learn all about these different theories and learn about different diverse populations. And then when you actually go into the world through placement and be able to apply those skills, you're already starting to change the world. You're already starting to impact people's lives, which is what it's all about. So thank you so much for sharing that story with us, because I'm sure that a lot of our guests out who are in the audience are so keen to helping people. It's so remarkable to hear that you were able to impact those people's lives in such a positive way. Thank you again for sharing, Vedita. So I'm going to move on to our next question, and that's for Stefan. So after graduating from the University of Guelph-Humber, what are your plans?
You said the word graduation, and I almost cried because, like, I finish next week. What are my plans? So I guess for me, it was pretty difficult to say the least. I spent the last year and a half trying to figure it out. But I think I've arrived at the point where my plans after graduation is to pursue a career in higher education. Now, some people might be like, okay, what is higher education? Does not sound like social services. But simply working in higher education will just allow me to work in post-secondary institutions and work with students just like Katie herself, and really get the chance to help students figure out what their passion is, help them through their university experience. So I think working on campus, and this kind of parallels back to the last question Katie asked me, working on campus really didn't only enhance my experience, but showed me how much I enjoyed helping other students find their place in post-secondary institutions. It really helped me figure out that like I enjoy like helping students like find what works for them and what program suits them and what society is best for them. Like I'm very keen on like ensuring that after the end of 4 years, you have the best university experience you can have. So I think that's the field I plan to go into. And once again, some might say that this path doesn't really align with the program, but I believe that it does simply because there's a lot of skills that we learned in the community social services program that I believe I can use in the higher education field, such as learning how to communicate interpersonally, working in a team, once again, learning how to advocate for students, and even like simple things like learning how to work from an anti-oppressive lens. There's so many things I've learned that I believe I'll be able to apply to the field. So yeah, that's my plans. I hope to work in the field for a year or a few and then pursue my master's in education.
Just changing the world in any industry. And I'm sure there are opportunities and so many unique opportunities, not only in higher education, but like Marie even said, there's so many different opportunities out there in the social services field or just helping others in general. So what a unique perspective. Thank you, Stefan. Now I'm going to ask one final question to both of our students on the panel today. So I want you to take a moment to reflect back to when you both were in grade 12, much like a lot of our audience here, and having to make this important decision. So what advice can you give to our grade 12 students as they make their decision on which university to attend this fall? I'm gonna have Vedita begin with this one.
All right. So when I was in grade 12, I did feel like I knew my plan, but I was also really scared about going to a new university and having to make friends. And I was worried about how hard the work was, because I'm sure you all can relate. Your teachers will tell you, university, it's very difficult. You got to put in the work. And I was like worried. I thought I wouldn't do well, and I was really scared. And although I do think some of our experiences and most of our experiences are bound to be a little different, I think it's helpful to know that you're not alone. And most people are feeling the same way. Most of us are nervous wrecks when we're thinking about like this transition and we don't know what's coming to us, like it's that period of uncertainty. But with that comes change, and change can be really great. I find that like most of us are afraid, but knowing that you're not alone, and some people are just better at hiding it than others, is kind of a comforting truth to keep in the back of your head. And I guess the advice I would give you as you make your decision is to go where you feel you belong. That's something that I did, because as soon as I stepped into the University of Guelph-Humber, it felt like home to me. I felt like I belonged there. I think that probably had to do with the close-knit community, maybe the plant wall, maybe just the atmosphere and the people that said hello to me, but I felt like I belonged. And I say go where you feel you belong, because your choice is the most important thing. There are going to be a million people telling you a billion different things, but the voice you have to listen to is your own. And you should pick the school that makes you feel excited but nervous, and grateful, and just like super, super excited about the opportunities and spending 4 years at that institution. And my advice, as cheesy as it may be, is to follow your heart and listen to what you believe is right for you, because you're the only one that knows what's best for you.
Thank you. And we'll have Stefan answer. I also just cognizant of the time here. So we are going to get through this last question and then move on to the tour. So Stefan, you can just provide a little bit of advice for our students here.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. I think Vedita, perfect advice. And you started to say something that I wanted to say, which was do what you love. Speaking from experience, a lot of times we go into a career because we're told it's going to make money. I've heard it a lot. That was my experience. Like I was a transfer student before I came to the University of Guelph-Humber. Not afraid to say that I started my career in accounting and finance. Completely did not like it, but I went into that career because I thought it was going to make money realistically. And within the first 2 months, I said, this is not for me. I need to follow my passion or follow my heart, as Vedita said. And I found my way in this program at the University of Guelph-Humber from another institution. Major change in my life, but I got to a place where I understood that at the end of the day, this is about me. This is about where I believe my passion is. And second and third, this is about where I can make an impact. So my advice would be, do what you love and ask yourself the question, no matter what you do, if you're going to enter into this program, ask yourself the question, at the end of this program, am I going to be able to make the impact in society I want to make? That's the question I had to ask myself. And I promise you, after transferring to this program in this school, I can strongly say I believe I can make the impact I want to make because I made that decision for myself. And last thing, remember, you're not limited to one thing. A lot of times, once again, we leave high school thinking we have to find the job. But in a society such as this that's very flexible, you're not limited to one thing. So you can enter into the CSS program, finish and do that, but also do something else on the side. We see it all the time. So just understand that, you're not limited. Like, you have the ability to do as many things as you want. You can get your degree in this program and go and get a completely separate degree or go get a degree similar. You can do anything you want to do. You're not limited. So do what you love and remember that you're not limited. Don't box yourself in.
Thank you so much, Vedita and Stefan, for all of your advice. I'm sure with our guests out in the audience, and as I'm sure you remember when you were in the shoes of our applicants, your perspectives and stories shared are definitely incredible and incredibly helpful in aiding these students to finding their best fit. So thank you so much. Which now leads us to another important perspective, and that's experiencing campus for yourself. So while we know nothing can replace the actual campus experience, we do have one of our student ambassadors, our START leaders, Juliana Bianco, who is also an FCSS student CSS student rather, here to guide you over our campus over the next 10 minutes, probably the quickest tour we'll ever deliver. So please note, following the tour, we will finish off with a live Q&A to address all of your remaining questions. We will end this webinar a little bit over time. So we definitely appreciate you sticking around to the end again, as we want to get to those questions. So welcome, Juliana.
Hi, and thank you, and hello, everyone. So welcome on to the University of Guelph-Humber campus. I'm so excited to be here with you and to take you up the front steps and inside the U of GH and show you around. Grab your things and let's go. Follow me around our 4-story building, chock full of student support and state-of-the-art facilities. Let's start where students gather every day in the North Atrium. The North Atrium is the hub of student life. It looks up our signature spiral staircase, one of 5 staircases and 2 elevators that accesses our upper floors, hosts a virtual current events board, and is a meeting point that literally breathes life into our campus. With its 4-story plant wall made up of over 1,000 species of plants. It's one of the first of its kind in Canada, and its biofilter cleans the air in our building and offers the perfect backdrop for a selfie. I know this from firsthand experience. As we move around the atrium, we pass by our main entrance, info desk, and our many student service offices, here to support you in your admission, advising you on for work placement and career planning, academics, and student financial services. Students connect with student services to speak to our helpful one-on-one staff to ensure they are always making the most of their time here at the university. Back in our atrium, business students can be found making events come to life in our art gallery, where in the Events Management 2 course, students are given a budget of $1,500 to source, plan, and execute an event. Events of all kinds have been held here, from art exhibitions and product launches. Across the atrium from the art gallery, we find GH111 and GH117, 2 120-seat lecture halls, the largest at the university. With an average class size of 49, most of our classrooms seat 65 students or less, but larger first-year courses are held here. equipped with natural lighting, swivel chairs, and outlets at every seat. These halls allow the opportunity to work in small groups. Now onto our second floor. As we head up the spiral staircase and up to the second floor, let's check out our newly renovated practice presentation rooms. Built with the help of our alumni donors, these rooms act as practice boardrooms for student project groups to enhance their public speaking, PowerPoint presentations, meetings, and case delivery skills. The sound dampening design feature allows for quiet in the room when the campus is busy. Our new case competition course allows business students to learn how to tackle business cases, and the opportunity to take part in one of our award-winning case competition teams, some of which have taken home major hardware at competitions across the globe, such as this big win last year in Johannesburg, South Africa. One of these team members, Emma, worked extremely hard to prepare for competitions while on this team, and she often credits these experiences in getting her job after graduation as a senior reconciliation officer at Scotiabank. As we work our way around the second floor, we find various student spaces for individual and study groups, as well as our learning commons, where many student workers help classmates with computer, academic, career, and research support, and get paid and build resume experience for doing so. Just around the corner at the Ignite Leadership Lounge, across from our GH Cafe Eatery, gives a space for student leaders to assemble, plan, and execute student initiatives, events, and pursue common interests. Many student leaders find themselves in meetings in this space. Whether your interest is leading a club, an academic society, or getting involved in student politics, you may find yourself in this space using many new life skills. Just one moment. So now to our third floor. I'll just resume for now. So now it's time to head up to the third floor, where we'll take a peek inside of several applied learning labs. I'll just wait for this to catch up. Or actually, I'll resume. So the Early Childhood Studies program boasts two amazing facilities on this floor. The Innovative Learning Lab, a state-of-the-art classroom that teaches future educators to understand learning styles by using them themselves. Learning pods are equipped with smartboards and a variety of seating styles, including wiggle stools, beanbag chairs, and bicycle desks for the active kinesthetic learner. In fact, one of our student leaders, Maywish, wrote an exam while sitting on a beanbag chair in this room. The Early Childhood Resource Room is the social hub for ECS students, and where students can sign up hundreds of learning resources to bring to work placements in schools and in therapeutic settings, such as the Ronald McDonald House and Sick Kids, among many others, in order to learn techniques and enrich lesson plans. Next, we'll move into the Crime Scene Investigation Lab. Should you feel uncomfortable with viewing a crime scene up close, please minimize your Zoom window at this time. Okay, all right, I'll resume. The CSI lab is set up by professors to emulate the various components of a crime scene. The students will assess fingerprints and blood splatter, and it's just one of the many ways our justice study students apply their classroom learnings outside of the classroom. Students can join and compete in international competitions with our CSI case team, or get involved and prepare for law school or graduate studies with our pre-law society or Alpha Phi Sigma Honor Society. Just down the hall, you'll find a series of labs dedicated to our media and communication studies students. Our editing suite features iMac workstations equipped with industry-leading design software such as Adobe Creative Cloud. They're here for digital journalism and visual communication students to produce and edit their work. Our control room also allows students to learn how to create the lighting and sound behind the magic of television. Now let's take a quick peek into our photography lab, where digital marketing and social media, visual communication, and multimedia journalism students shoot and edit their work. Our multi-purpose production studio hosts a soundstage, a green screen, and allows students to produce live television broadcasts and podcasts on location. For those who follow us on social media at Guelph-Humber, you might recognize some of these facilities as we put them to use for our web series, What's Up Wednesdays. Lastly, our new and ever evolving virtual reality lab is equipped with the Google 360 cameras that allowed us to create much of this tour. Down the hall and around the corner, we find the Experiential Learning Lab, used by our community social services students, a simulated model of a typical community agency office, with 2 counseling rooms and a one-way mirror, which allows students to role play their client interviews and mock counseling sessions. As a CSS student myself, I have found the mock counseling sessions in the space very useful to practice my counseling skills. In this same space, psychology students use the lab to conduct research. Students can be hired as research assistants to work a paid position alongside a professor to collect and interpret data on a specific topic. A former tour leader named Skylar was hired as a psychology research assistant last year, and the topic she studied helped her write her thesis and had the opportunity to present her findings at an academic conference last winter. As we head back down to the second floor, we invite you to get to know the full Humber College campus by visiting the North Campus virtual tour, which can be found at humber.ca. Humber buildings house many of our shared student services, such as the library, housed in the Learning Resource Commons, the bookstore, the Student Wellness and Accessibility Center, our Math and Writing Centers, International and Testing Centers, as well as additional eateries. There are so many food options at Humber. If you're a burrito lover, if your chicken is your jam, or you like to keep it light and healthy with veggie bowls, salad bars, or the odd burger, we have options for you. 2 days a week, there's even a pay what you can soup bar that caters to students using sustainable cooking methods. Study spaces and our unique kinesiology labs. The exercise prescription lab is where students take courses and partake in hands-on learning, such as taping and getting used to body assessments equipment such as bod pods, which allows students to understand body composition in the context of health. From here, we'll head across the bridge and out through our main doors for a quick walk across the parking lot to residence, where U of GH shares 3 buildings and living learning communities with Humber College students. For students who want to live on campus, single-style rooms are assigned to applicants who receive an offer of admission and apply to residence by June 1st. Living in residence has the added perk of being situated on the Harbor's Arboretum, a 250-acre green space set just behind campus and filled with award-winning garden spaces, hiking trails, and even an outdoor classroom. Now that you've had a glimpse about the U of GH building and surrounding area, I hope you have a feel for what it's like to benefit from the many state-of-the-art facilities we pack into one friendly building and the high level of support and many opportunities that come with being a U of GH student. Thanks for joining me on our guided tour. Now we'll turn it back to Joseph to share a few important reminders.
Thank you so much, Juliana. I'll actually come back on and we're going to get started by turning it over to your questions. So again, I know that we are running a little over time, so thank you so much for your patience as we get through your questions. So right now I'm going to invite our staff and students. Joseph, Marie, Vedita, and Stefan to open your cameras, and we will get started on our live Q&A. So this first question, I believe would be for Marie. So this question we get all the time. So yes, we are not a Bachelor of Social Work program per se, but of course there are many opportunities in the social work and social services industries. So this question here is asking, what jobs could I get when graduating from this program? What jobs can I get after graduating from this program without going on to further education like master's programs?
Thank you very much, Caitlin. So with this program, our students can go on, as I mentioned, to do a lot of frontline positions, which is very similar to social service worker positions. And our students can also register with the College of Social Work and Social Service Worker in Ontario as a social service worker. Other positions that are also available, as Stefan mentioned, he wanted to work in post-secondary. We also do have currently on our team who is the field placement coordinator for the CSS program. She is an alumni of the CSS program. So we do have students that go on to become field placement coordinators at university or college level for programs who are similar to the social services field. We also have students that go on to pursue student support worker position at a higher education level. There are students that go on to work in school boards, such as Toronto Public School Board, as well as Peel Public School Board, to become educational assistant, where they work one-on-one with children who have disabilities. You can also work as a residential counselor, where you would be helping and sometimes staying over in some of the residential home and working one-on-one with clients, providing them with counseling and certain treatment. So even with a BSW, there is a certain amount of position that you're allowed to do and you're not allowed to do without a master's specifically in a certain field. Like I said earlier, the social services field is very vast. I've had alumni come back to me and tell me some of the titles of their position, which I've never heard before. And a lot of time you will find more of those positions once you're in the field. So a lot of time those positions will either can be created for you, or it's something new that the organization needs, or it's something that they can create with you based on the experience and the education you have as well.
Thank you very much, Marie, for that very detailed answer. Again, to reiterate, no shortage of various opportunities, and you can definitely find your passion in the social services field. I'm going to direct the next few questions again to you, Marie, just to give you a heads up. So this first question is, if you know any particular universities, or if you can speak to other universities that accept a Bachelor of Applied Sciences as a prerequisite for Teachers College. Are you able to address that question?
Yes, I can. The Teachers College programs in Ontario that are recognized by the Ontario College of Teachers, all of them accept students who have graduated from a Bachelor of Applied Science program. So we have students from the CSS program, but as well as other programs, which are also Bachelor of Applied Science, who have applied to Teachers College and have been very successful. Every year, we do have quite a few students that go on to pursue that path.
Thank you, Marie. And this next question is again more career focused. So this particular guest is asking if their end goal was to become an art therapist. Is this the degree that would be a stepping stone to lead them in that direction?
Yes, it definitely will be. To become an art therapist in Canada, you have to do the training and to become certified by the Canadian Art Therapy Association. And for them, a pre-requirement of that training is to have an undergraduate degree from a reputable university. And usually what I tell students if they want to go into the art therapy or the play therapy path is to do something like the CSS degree or something related to the social services field. So they have a foundation of the counseling that will be able to help them and support them when they learn the art therapy. So then when they go into the field, they're not only providing art therapy, which is a bonus, but they're also providing counseling and supportive services as well.
Thank you very much, Marie. So this next question I'm going to direct to Stefan. Just Stefan, because I know that you had provided some perspectives about perhaps some of the things that you've learned from the CSS program. Do you know, or can you allude to what type of approach that the University of Guelph-Humber's Community Social Services program teaches from? Just any perspective there would be great.
Yeah, for sure. So I know usually some, I won't say all, but some BSW programs, their program is actually, the curriculum is ingrained in a certain approach. So I know some universities, their curriculum is based from like a social advocacy approach, for example. Some others might be, now it's all slipped in my mind. But I know for our program, I won't say teaches from a specific approach, but I know our program is very clinical in nature. So although we're not like specifically like the entire curriculum is like teaching strictly from like social advocacy, for example, like within our courses, you will receive that same level of understanding as if it were, if that makes sense. Like, so I find all our courses do a good job at really still giving us that foundation. But I will say that it's more clinical based, not strictly like we teach from this approach, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yes. So thank you so much for that perspective, Stefan. We're going to move on to the next question. So this next question I'm going to direct to actually Stefan and Vedita, and we'll have Vedita answer this question first. So what are the assignments and classwork like in this program?
So I think the assignments and classwork kind of depend on the professor that you get, but in general, I've noticed throughout my time in the community social services program that we do a lot of research papers on topics about specific populations, like working with women or working with people of color or working with the LGBTQ plus population. So research papers are a big thing. We also have group projects, and sometimes those include presentations. Again, like there's an emphasis on like research, exams, midterms, just the regular kind of test. Some of our exams that I've had are take-home exams, so they're more based off of like applying a certain perspective. So if you learn a specific method for therapy or providing counseling, your exam would be asking questions based off of like scenarios. And then I think that another type of assignment that I've had in the past included like a more of a hands-on kind of assignment where I got to, it was in my working with communities class, I got to create a project. So I actually did one with a friend, and we did a project to create more awareness for the LGBTQ community. So we kind of did posters, went to Graffiti Alley, got people to sign on to our posters stating that they were an ally, and we presented all of this to our class. And then I think another component of our assignments include labs. So especially, I'll use counseling as an example. In our counseling classes, you do attend labs, and that in person usually is in the CSS lab, Experiential Learning Lab, and that's where you have the opportunity to counsel one of your classmates. And after each counseling lab, you submit a document kind of going over what you did in that counseling session. So again, that accounts for a portion of your mark. So it's a combination of research, exams, presentations, group projects, and labs and seminars.
Thank you. And Stefan, are you able to add on, just for the sake of time, or anything else to add with the classwork?
Honestly, Vedita did a great job of summing it up. I think all I'll say, I know usually the question would be, is it manageable? I think at the end of the day, yes, it can be manageable. It depends on you as a student, because I know for me, I'm always busy. Campus jobs, schoolwork, working outside of school, like social life. So placement. So there's a lot that can start to pile up, but I think at the same time, it's just like I was able to manage it because I really like came down on myself about time management. So I think it's all very manageable. Once again, there's a lot of support here for you, but I think you also have to tell yourself, okay, whether I don't work at all and I only have class, like I have to make sure that I know how to manage my time and make sure it works for me. But I do believe all of it is manageable.
Thank you so much. Well said for that student perspective on classwork. This next question, I'm not sure if either Marie or Joseph can help me answer this question, but in terms of international school exchange opportunities, this may be more directed to Joseph, but Marie, if you have any insight, let us know. Joseph, are you able to answer about the international exchange opportunities with the university?
Yes, for sure. I believe that question is with respect to the study abroad program. And when it relates to study abroad, of course, when it is safe to do so finally, after I guess the pandemic is over, the University of Guelph-Humber does offer a study abroad program for students. It typically takes place within the summer months. So students would be able to travel for 10 to 12 days to various different countries that we have on our roster, where they will first spend some time in course learning about a particular topic and then going ahead to that country and actually physically getting to experience the culture within it. Now, the benefit to you is it does count as a general elective credit. So in addition to traveling and experiencing the world, you will be able to count that towards your credits towards your degree. Now, in addition, our study abroad program is actually very heavily subsidized by the university. So it's not quite expensive to be able to enjoy these opportunities or experience the study abroad program. And we do offer various student study abroad bursaries. So ensure that, if that is something that you're considering when you're a student, check out those bursaries as well, as they can help provide some significant funding. I know of students who have traveled to Japan for as little as $500 because of the fact that they were able to secure a scholarship or bursary for the study abroad program. So definitely there are opportunities out there. We also do offer an exchange program where you can spend an entire semester abroad at one of our partnered institutions. So happy to provide more information on our study abroad programs in the chat.
Thank you, Joseph. So moving along, we do have some more questions left. This next question, I believe we can have Joseph, if you're available to answer. In terms of the student profile, we do have a question about that. Is that something that's mandatory to complete?
That is a great question. So the student profile is not mandatory. It is recommended for students who may have an admission average that falls between a 70 and a 74.9%. And the student profile, just a reminder that the deadline is coming up on May 1st. So again, it is not mandatory. It's not required as part of admissions, but it is highly recommended if you are between that 70 and 74.9% range. And we typically recommend that if, students, perhaps if you're a little concerned as you didn't hear back as of yet, I want to assure you that there is still time to hear back. We are going to be receiving more grade data from your schools shortly, as you just completed your third quadmester for some of you. And so as we continue to receive those grades, we'll continue to evaluate applications. But if at the back of your mind, you're still a little worried, there's no harm in submitting a student profile form. Just make sure that you do get that in if you're thinking about it before May 1st.
Thank you, Joseph. The next two questions are going to be for Marie. They are career and further education related. So this question, can I become a counselor with this program? Specifically mental health, or are there any other topics? Care to weigh in on that a little bit, Marie?
Definitely. So the word counselor can be a tricky word depending on the organization that you're applying to. This is where we get into a little bit more technical. Counselors can be regulated, so there are graduate programs such as a specific master's in counseling or a specific master's in social work that are required for certain positions. However, there are other organizations that do use the word counselor, and our students can apply for those positions. They do have the experience and the education for it. For example, a residential counselor, like I mentioned earlier, you would be working is a residential home, and you can be working with different type of individuals who are suffering with mental health issues or addiction, or who have extreme disabilities or special needs. And what you would do as a residential counselor is you be working with their treatment. You would be supporting them in group session, whether one-on-one. However, there will also be a psychiatrist or somebody else who has a master level on the team as well to be able to provide more additional in-depth assessments.
Thank you, Marie. And then this question is a little bit more open-ended pertaining to masters. Just can you do a master's program? I know you highlighted that a little bit in your presentation, but this particular guest is just asking, can I do my master's degree after graduation with the CSS degree?
Yes, you can definitely do a master's program. We have a lot of students that have gone on to do different programs, such as Master of Education, again, Master in Teaching for Teachers College, or Master of Social Work. There is other master's programs that are not necessarily related to the social services field that you can pursue as well. Now, in terms of the requirement, for example, Master of Social Work doesn't have any additional courses requirements, but for students who, let's say, want to become speech language pathologists, the master's would require additional courses on top of their degree. So any additional courses would mostly depend on the master's that you decide to pursue.
Thank you, Marie, for that insight. So moving on, we have a few more questions left here. So I'm going to direct this question to Joseph. This is with regards to residents. So specifically somebody who's living in Toronto who wants to live in residence. I guess we'll have the approach of, can someone in Toronto live in residence? And then specifically with COVID, will space be limited in the fall?
All right, that is definitely a great question. And at this time, the way that we are going to handle residence applications, we are encouraging students to apply if they are interested prior to the June 1st deadline. We are going to have to take in many different factors into consideration. Obviously, one being what public health guidelines are at that given time as we get closer to the fall semester. Now, typically, no firm decisions have yet been made on what residence exactly will look like, but there likely will be a capacity restriction. And in that case, what we are going to start to look at is, the student's need to be on campus or to be living within residence. So obviously, priority will have to be given for those individuals who perhaps are located further away. But what that exactly looks like will have to be determined at a later time. But for this instance, as of right now, if this particular student, if you're living within the city of Toronto, but you're still thinking about residence, my strongest recommendation to you would be still submit your application. You would be required to submit your application prior to the June 1st deadline. And that at least will put you in the queue. And then we will communicate with you what the status of your application will be as we move through the cycle. And once a decision fully is made on what the fall semester will look like.
Thanks, Joseph. And I guess it's a good segue to our next question. Will classes, I'm assuming with pertinence to COVID, will they be entirely online or will it be more of a hybrid style in the fall?
That is a great question. And I think like many of us, we all wish that we have this crystal ball to see the future and what the pandemic has to unfold for us. What I can tell you as of right now is that we are currently planning for more activity on campus for fall 2021 semester. As such, we are obviously planning for as much face-to-face learning as possible. However, as I previously just mentioned, recognizing that our ability to provide face-to-face learning will obviously ultimately depend on public health guidelines. Our utmost importance is always going to be the health and safety of our students, staff, faculty, and everyone else who's part of the University of Guelph-Humber community. So we are also planning for as much or possibility rather of a mix face-to-face and remote learning. So that is what's in the works. We don't have any firm decision as of yet, but I can assure you that once a decision is made, we will notify our students, our applicants about what the current situation is and what the fall semester will look like. So as soon as we know, we promise you, we won't keep it a secret, you will know. So stay tuned, be sure to monitor your emails as we will send that information out to you as soon as it becomes made available. Katie?
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you all for your patience. We're going to power through these last questions, again, very tactfully. So this next question, I believe, would be for Marie. So are there more career opportunities in social work for those who have a bachelor's degree or an honors bachelor?
So from my experience looking at quite a few job postings with our students, I've seen a lot of the educational requirement for a higher position instead of the frontline being a bachelor in social sciences or a bachelor in social work. So I've seen both of them being written together, not making one more important than the other. In terms of other positions, there are masters in the social services field that are required for you depending on the level that you're working with the student or the client, sorry.
Thank you so much, Marie. And this last question, I believe would be for you as well. So because this isn't a Bachelor of Social Work program, this person has a question asking, can they go directly into a master's program once they graduate?
So our students can go directly into a Master of Social Work program once they graduate. It all depends on the Master of Social Work. So there are schools that have 1 year Master of Social Work that are limited to only students with a Bachelor of Social Work. However, there are other schools and quite a few in Ontario, such as U of T, York University, Western University, that offer 2 year Master of Social Work program. So these are programs for students who don't have a specific bachelor in social work. However, quite of our students have been very successful and have come back and said that our program has prepared them for the Master of Social Work and has given them the foundation they needed to be able to kind of ace the program.
Thank you so much, Marie. And that wraps up our webinar for today. So thank you all very much for, again, your patience sticking around as we get through your questions. We hope you found all the information and stories shared today helpful as you continue your research. But the conversation does not end here. We would like to continue helping you in however way that we can. So with that said, we do invite you before you head out to check out the different resources that have been uploaded in the chat, which includes other ways to connect with us beyond this webinar. So that includes all of our other virtual offerings that we have upcoming, including other GH Talk series, upcoming program webinars, and next steps happening on May 26th, which offer sessions on finding your next steps to becoming a U of GH student. So for more information on these events and to register, please visit the Visit Us link in the chat. Next steps, just to let you know, will be available in the coming weeks. So if you do have further questions, please check out our website for more information. You can also contact us by phone, by email, or booking a one-on-one virtual appointment with us using the link in the chat. Lastly, don't forget to follow us on all of our social channels for the latest and greatest U of GH news and updates. So thank you all once again for joining us today and for your interest in the University of Guelph-Humber, and all the best as you continue your post-secondary research. Bye now.